I haven't heard a no. Are we ready? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 10th Public Works Committee meeting. I just want to remind people that if you have any cell phones out there, to turn them off or to the vibrate position. And if you need to make a call or receive a call, if you would take that in the hallway, please. First item is to do a roll call and determination of quorum. Brenda, if you please.
Estes. Nordstrom.
Here.
Roberts. Here. Scott. Here. Clayton. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is to adopt the agenda. Is there any, before we get into that, I do have one item to add to the agenda. We'll call it item 24. And very simply what it amounts to is we're going to authorize the mayor, would like to authorize the mayor and finance officer to sign a resolution to declare an emergency and authorize the public works director enter into a contract and retain services for work to be performed at the city landfill. That's the only addition to the agenda to have at this time. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Roberts, second by Alderman Estes to adopt the agenda. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Now is the time for the general comments from the public to discuss or express concerns to the committee on any issue not limited to items on the agenda. Action will not be taken at this meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the alderman present. At this time, I do not have any public comments that are not pertaining to items on the agenda. So the next, I do not have any comments. So the next item I have here is the consent items 1 through 19. These are open for public comments, items 1 through 19. Just to make sure, I did not receive any comments at this time. Request chits for public comments. Is there anybody that we did miss from the audience that items 1 through 19? Not seeing anybody jumping up and running to the podium. Thank you. We will move on to removing items from the consent calendar. Is there anyone that wishes to remove an item from the consent calendar? First look to the council. Not seeing any requests here, and staff. Not seeing any requests from the staff. Okay.
Move to approve items 1 through 19.
Thank you. Alderman Estes moved, second by Alderman Alderman Clayton. I was getting you two confused here for the moment. The motion is to approve. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We will proceed to item 20. Thank you. Items 20 through 23 is open to public comments. And again, I do not have any speaker request forms at this time. And not seeing anyone else ready to make public comment, we will move on to item 20 is to authorize staff to work with Destination Rapid City to prepare an implementation plan and necessary agreements for West Memorial Park improvements in accordance with a proposed concept plan. This is brought forward by Alderman Wright and myself.
Move to approve.
Motion is made by Alderman Estes, second by Alderwoman Scott to approve the authorization. Is there any questions on this from the committee members? Not seeing any questions here. The motion is to authorize staff to work with DRC. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 21 is authorized reallocation of vision funds to Horseman Pool and Park. And
move to approve.
I've got a motion by Alderman Roberts and second by Alderwoman Scott, both of Ward 4. Okay. And that's where the pool's going to go, in Ward 4. I'm not seeing any discussion, just to make sure. All in favor? Terry? Terry Walterstorff, the Public Works Director, you have a comment for us, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to make sure we're all clear as far as the money that we're reallocating in the Vision Fund and the additional projects that are still outstanding right now. I believe that there was a spreadsheet attached to the agenda summary. Let me double check here. Actually, it's not, but currently in the Vision Fund, and Pauline's not here to speak to it, so I'll speak for her. There's about $2.35 million of undesignated cash in the Vision Fund expected currently right now through 2015. We always try to keep $1 million of minimum cash balance in there, so there's about $1.35 million available. This motion would move $1.1 million of that additional funds to the Horseman, leaving about $250,000. Now keep in mind there's 2 additional projects that are outstanding right now. We have the Canyon Lake Dam reconstruction project. More than likely you'll see some additional change orders coming through on there. I would expect that additional $250,000 will need to be allocated to complete that project. Expect to see that probably before we're done. Then the other outstanding project, which has not been let yet, is the second phase and the final phase of the soccer complex. Keep in mind the first phase that we let brought the water main out there, graded and seeded the fields, put the irrigation system in. The final phase is the parking lot and some of the road improvements out there. So the latest numbers that we've seen on that is we could expect about a $750,000 shortfall on that. So we will be looking for additional funds for that project also. That's the one project that's going to be sitting out there that we don't know for sure funding's available. More than likely, if you look at the revenues and sales tax revenues for 2014 and 15, what's programmed into that Vision Fund spreadsheet is a little low. I think you'll probably see that revenue come in higher. Our hope would be that there would be funding available to do the soccer project also. But I just want to make sure you guys are aware that we still have those 2 additional outstanding projects that will need some additional funding.
Any other questions from the council members? Not seeing any. Everyone ready to vote on the authorization? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And thank you. Item 22 is to approve award of total bid plus deduct alternate for Horseman Park Pool, replacement. Opened on May 27th, 2014 to the lowest responsible bidder, which is RCS Construction Incorporated, in the amount of $8,002,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Roberts to approve, second by Alderwoman Scott. And I'm not seeing any lights at this time. Any, Brad?
Hopefully I'm in the queue.
Okay. Oh, it's not working that way. All right. All right. Go ahead, Brett. You have
Thank you,
the floor.
Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask a question to Mr. Waltersdorf, if I could.
You may.
Terry, just one quick question. In having just moved the allocation of funds, and if we award this, in this $8,002,000, is there any contingency at all for change orders or anything?
Yeah, I think there's about $160,000, if I remember right, of contingency. It's not in the $8 million, but it's in our overall budget that we've programmed in.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Again, my lights are not working at the moment. From the council members? Okay, we will proceed to the vote, and that is to approve the lowest responsible bidder as RCS Construction. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Item 23 is a street division report by the Honorable Don Brumbaugh. Superintendent Brumbaugh, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee. My apologies for not being here a couple weeks ago. I had an unexpected visit to our friendly dentist. It was causing some serious problems, so he says hello, by the way. I've been asked to give a brief presentation on the street division, our makeup, and how we do what we do, or some of the things that we're responsible for. Basically, the street division is made up of 4 different cost centers for budget purposes, 301 being street maintenance, 302 snow removal, 305 equipment maintenance, and 401 street cleaning. The total budget for the streets is approximately $5.5 million, depending on whether equipment is added or put on separate spreadsheets. We run 45 total employees, and our responsibilities basically include the operational side of street maintenance. That would differ from the reconstruction side. We try to have a definite line in there where engineering services handles reconstruction and we handle maintenance. The 301 street maintenance consists of 22 FTEs. We handle the concrete, asphalt, and gravel maintenance for the city. Last year, the year 2013 budget year, we hand raked over 1,500 tons of asphalt into patches, potholes, blowouts, waterline patch repair, that sort of thing. We typically run 2 shifts. Normal shifts would be Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30 in the afternoon, and we do run an evening shift or night shift from 9 p.m. at night, Sunday night, through 5:30 a.m. Friday morning. A lot of people in town don't know that we have a night shift, but it enables us to do the street cleaning necessary on main lines and heavy trafficked areas that we otherwise would either cause a substantial problem to traffic flow during the day, or it would just be dangerous work for the guys, being you're creeping through curbs. So that work is all accomplished at night with a 6 to 7 member night crew. 302 snow removal is manned by the same people that do the operator work for street maintenance and street cleaning. We respond 24/7 to snow and ice concerns, and think that we do a pretty good job when it comes to safety and so on and other concerns related to snow and ice. This year was exceptional, or the last budget year was exceptional with the over 70 plus inches of snow we got starting in October, and it didn't seem like it quit until this spring. But as a result, and we did have a few guys retire. We've probably seen the biggest turnover in streets this year that I've seen since I've been over there. I think we're going to wind up, when it's all said and done, with 9 new individuals due to transfers within the city, retirements, and so on. So we're going to be looking at a lot of training this summer, a lot of new people doing snow removal and so on this fall. So hopefully it all goes good. Included with your packet that I put on the dais, there is a copy stapled to the back of the present snow and ice removal policy that was run through in October of 2011. Although we're constantly looking for new materials, new products, new equipment to help us do our job better and more efficient, the old standbys still work, and they're the ones that are more readily available, and there hasn't been anything new on the market in quite a few years. So as of right now, we still plan on using the same materials and so on that we've been using in the past. 305 equipment maintenance consists of 13 FTEs. That crew performs all the equipment maintenance for Public Works, PD, Civic Center, and the library. We take care of over 500 pieces of equipment that range from the small little plate whackers and jumping jacks for compacting dirt to motor graders, scrapers, compactors, the big screens at the landfill, and so on. So we've got a group of guys that are well versed in motorized mechanical type stuff, and they have to be able to fix just about anything that comes through the door. Now in this day and age, everything's turned into electronics. Everything's electronically run, from transmissions to you name it, all computerized, and it's a system or set of systems that's proprietary, meaning that they will not give us the schematics, the books, the so on to repair that kind of stuff. So there is going to be more outsourcing in the future, simply because they want to keep their shops open and their guys are trained up for that. If that training was available for us, we'd be taking advantage of it, but it's not. Right now, we're keeping very busy with PD, landfill, street division equipment, and whatever Public Works brings over to us, just keeping things maintained, tires, air pressure, oil changes, all that kind of stuff that has to happen. 401 street cleaning is our final budget cost center. That's the street cleaning side of things. We swept over 19,000 lane miles last year, and we hauled over 3,700 tons of material, which is over 400 truckloads of material to the landfill to use as cover material. That all comes off the city streets. That's a lot of material. And we have an additional amount stockpiled at the street department just about all the time, where we clean out the sweepers after shift. So a lot of material comes off city streets that a lot of people just don't see, but there's a lot of it. And that basically is an overview of what we do, and we've got several pieces of equipment, obviously, that we do that with. We appreciate the council's efforts and Terry's efforts in getting us the equipment we need to do the work. And right now, I think our fleet is in about as good a shape as it's been in years. As long as we keep up with the rotation of the older equipment going out and the newer stuff coming in, we're able to keep up. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can.
Donna, I'm sure we will have some questions for you, but if I can start off from the get-go, I want to thank you and your crews for all the work that you've been doing around the city, and especially the comment that we don't know that you have a night crew, which translates into me for the noise of your operation is not affecting the residents. So my accolades towards the crews that do all that work. The next one is Winter Storm Atlas, the effort that your crew and department put together on that. Thank you very much for all the responsibilities that you've folks tried to get through for us so that we get the city back in operation again. It took a lot of people, your crew, as part of that segment to get that all put together. Another one is thanks for fixing I'll call it the swales. I'll be nice. The swales on Ivy Street. There was several of them that were starting to appear, and the crews did a good job of getting that reduced. Alleys. Can you address alleys for us a little bit, and how we deal with that out of the dust program, and just a brief summary of how we deal with alleys.
Alleys, the ones that are gravel, we maintain on our end of things. We do make it through after rainstorms, that sort of thing, but typically in the spring we'll go through every alley we've got or gravel surface that we're responsible for and do the reblading. Gravel as necessary. The out of the dust program is handled by engineering services. Paul Feynman does a good job on that as far as paving what he can get paved with the money that's available to him. We have some input as to our problem alleys, ones that give us issues that we have trouble fixing without hard surfacing on it, and Paul addresses those through Dale Tech's engineering services. So basically it's a call-in thing, get your name on the list. The alleys that are going to be paved are prioritized, and Paul handles all that as far as the paving end of things. Once the asphalt starts getting holes in it, then we'll be involved, I'm sure.
One last question for you before I go to the panel here is that can you describe for us a little bit how you do the chemical treatment for the ice? Tell us a little bit about how the mixture works and some of the issues we ran across because of the chlorides getting into Rapid Creek, those types of issues.
Well, Rapid Creek is a tough situation because it depends on how much flow you have in the creek as to, how much you can get by with, to put it simply. We don't apply, say, mag chloride directly to the pavement. We use it as a pre-wetting agent. We have two different loads that we'll go out of the shop with. It'll either be sand salt combination with mag on top or dry, or we'll go straight salt depending on where we're at in town and mag chloride on that. The application rates, it's hard to set so much per square mile, so much or per lane mile and so on because of the speed variation, stop and go and so on. So it requires an operator with some knowledge as to how much is needed in a given situation, because what we found on snow and ice control is there's no two storms the same, and there probably never will be. But your application or the way you handle it stays pretty much the same. You have to travel the roads and you have to apply some material. So we apply material on it, and we apply only the amount of material that we need to do the job. When we get major snow events or over 4 or 5 inches of snow, our main objective before we start any thought about plowing is to make sure that we've got traffic moving, which means that we have to go through and treat intersections and hills and emergency routes just so we can get everybody moving, and then we pull people out of that type of equipment into the plow trucks or the motor graders or whatever's necessary for that particular storm when we start doing our plowing operation. We'll follow that up again with sanding material if needed. Does that answer your question?
It does. It helps. I forgot one other subject, and it has to do with potholes. I want to thank you folks for trying to do the best you can with what you've got as far as addressing potholes. It's an ongoing situation that we're going to live with forever. But the material that you're putting in there, can you describe how that process works? If we're changing materials, if we come across a new material, are we experimenting with it, et cetera, just to fill in those temporary potholes?
A couple of years ago, there was some products developed with the addition of different types of oil, different types of aggregates, and there's several different brand names out there: Omega Mix, Super Mix, different mixes. Minneapolis Asphalt has come up with an oil, and they use different vendors and so on to do the mixing for them, as far as mixing their oil in the aggregates, and then we get bid prices for it. We'll either buy it off state contract, or I'll contact the individuals directly if we need more material. But it's basically a super mix that you can use in most any kind of weather. You don't have to heat it. You can displace water in potholes with it and compact it in, and it stays in pretty good. As compared to recycled asphalt or RAP, that's a dry material, has very little, if any, binder in it. You put that in, it rains on it, and it falls out, or we sweep it out. This other stuff, there's a lot of it that's been in for a couple, 2 or 3 years. It's more expensive, but we can use it in all weather conditions. So we keep a stockpile of it, and we use it through the winter months when the asphalt plants aren't open. As soon as the asphalt plants open up, we typically use hot mix. In our 74 patch truck, it's got a heated box on it, and we're able to keep that mix hot. If we have a lot of potholes, and we know where some of these areas are at after a rainstorm, for instance, we'll even have pickups out, as many as 3 or 4 pickups with a little box full of asphalt in and 2 guys, and they're shoveling it in by hand and compacting that material into the potholes. So we try to take care of them as fast as we can. If we get a call, we take care of it the same half a shift or that day for sure. There's very few of them that go over into the next day. If we get a call, whether it's gravel maintenance on alleys or potholes or whatever, we try to get it the same day.
Thank you, Don. Any questions from the panel? Brad Estes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion to acknowledge this report, and if I get a second, I'd like to.
A motion by Alderman Estes and a second by Alderman Clayton to acknowledge. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman Nordstrom asked all my questions I had, and I'm not trying to speed this up. I think this is a great report, and you guys have quite a task keeping our streets in the shape they are, and I appreciate everything. So with that, I was wanting to ask the same thing about how do you decide when you use salt or sand or the combination and such, and I appreciate your answer and everything you and your staff do. Thank you.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. The motion is to acknowledge. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, Don. Appreciate your report. Item 24. Sorry, out of order here. Item 24 is to authorize the mayor and finance officer to sign a resolution declaring an emergency and authorize the public works director to enter a contract and retain services for work to be performed at the Rapid City landfill. If I may turn the floor over to Public Works Director Terry Waltersdorf, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me take just a minute to kind of explain the situation that we have going on out at the landfill. As you're probably aware, there's a lot of cleanup going on around town from the October blizzard last year. So we're really being inundated with yard waste and branches out at the landfill. To compound matters, our yard waste grinder broke down late last week. And at this point, we don't know for sure when it'll be up and operating, but we really cannot afford to just allow that pile to continue to grow. We were having a hard time maintaining and keeping up with the pile anyway with our existing yard waste grinder, but now that it's broke down, our concern is if it continues to grow, we run the risk of that thing combusting and starting a fire like we had last year, if you recall. They're very difficult to get out. So what we would like to do is bring in Baker Grinding on an hourly rate. He's actually on site now. We've hired him, but I expect to exceed the $25,000 bid limit, and we really just don't have time to go through the bidding process. We're paying about $450 an hour. It's the same price we paid when we were doing the grinding last fall, so it's a competitive price. We will make sure we get additional quotes, and we have 2 or 3 quotes to look at. But what this will do, this will allow us to hire him on for a longer period of time until we can get our grinder up and we can get that pile down to a manageable level.
Thank you, Terry. Questions from the panel? I've got Alderman Estes first.
I'll move approval.
Motion made by Alderman Estes, second by Alderman Roberts to approve. Any questions from? Yep, I know. I just want to make sure Brad is yield the floor because apologize. I haven't got any lights, so we'll go to Alderman Roberts next. Yes, I will.
I've got a question for you, Terry, if you don't mind. Your grinder that's broke down, do you have parts on order? Do you have some expectation of when this is going to be up and running again? Can you fix it? I mean, there's a lot of questions out there.
It will be fixed. They're still diagnosing some of the problems. We're having some problems with the starter and stuff on it and some different things. So we'll get through the process. And it's been broke down off and on a little bit for the last few weeks. So we repair it, functions for a while and broke down. So this last one's a little longer, and we just, like I said, we just really can't afford to continue to have the pile grow.
How old is that grinder?
This is a newer one.
Okay.
So it's not that we have an old piece of equipment, it's just we're
But
having
under
some,
warranty or anything? Is
I
there?
don't believe we have a warranty on it.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll get the equipment up and operating. It's really a time issue for us.
Do you have any expectations of when you think it could possibly be up? I'm just kind of looking for a timeline of you renting.
Yeah, I would hope sometime within about a week we'll have the thing up and operating again, but a week is just something I can't afford. Keep in mind that about 5 to 6 working days, I'll spend $25,000. So it's at $450 an hour. It adds up pretty quick. We were operating that thing 6 days a week, just trying to keep up with the pile, extra hours. So we were putting long hours and we were running it pretty hard.
What funding source are you recommending for this?
I knew that was the next question. I forgot to mention that early on. So we'll fund it out of our solid waste landfill cost center. So at this point, I don't know that we'll need a supplement. We'll see how the budget's sitting later in the year. We could probably forego some equipment purchases or that type of thing. So I'm not asking for a supplement to the budget at this point.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderman Roberts. We'll proceed now to Alderman Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Terry, on a different note, I want to get with you after this on a separate deal, so please don't run off. $450 an hour, and I've got nothing to gauge that by. It just sounds rather high. Could you explain why it's $450 an hour? And then you also mentioned that we'll go out for competitive bids. And do you have, I'm asking for a crystal ball projection here, do you have any reason to believe that we'd be able to do better than that $450 an hour?
Two things. The $450 an hour, keep in mind that's usually 2 pieces of equipment and a couple operators. It's the grinder itself and a loader, and they bring their operators in to load it. That's what they do. They bring their own equipment and their operators. I don't expect we'll get additional quotes. I don't expect to get better prices. It's like I said, it's the same price we were paying last fall when we went through I wouldn't call it a competitive bidding process, but it was a fairly competitive quote process when we went through the fall blizzard. So it's been the going rate we've seen whenever we've hired them in before.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? I'm not seeing any other questions. Motion is to authorize for the signing of the emergency resolution. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Estes moved to adjourn, or Alderman Roberts second. Those in favor say aye. Motion carries. Thank you.